This is the Dog Savant Podcast with your host, Brett Endies.
Hello, everybody. This is the Dog Savant Podcast, episode 7. We're episode 7, right, Jordan?
This is 7.
7, awesome. Okay, so 7. I'm Brett. I'm your host. We're going to talk about potty training, housebreaking, teaching dogs to go to the bathroom outside. Simply put, I'm going to talk about myths. I'm going to talk about systems. I'm going to talk about how to approach it and how some people make mistakes that lead to failure versus success when it comes to teaching your dog to go to the bathroom outside, hold it for a reasonable period of time, and then wait till you take them to go outside again. And I'll give you when there are exceptions to that little statement I just made as well. Before that, I always like to start with the little business section of things. We don't have sponsors yet, but I do have a show that is coming out Saturday, September 1st. It is called the Untrainables. It's going to be on Facebook Watch, which is on the Pet Collective platform. So if you go there to the Pet Collective, there will be an Untrainables channel for that. I really look forward to this coming out. I worked really hard on this last week. Last podcast, episode 6, I talked a little bit about the experience filming the first season. And I really love your support. And also, I'd love you to support the actual podcast, my YouTube channel, all that. Subscribe, like, share, all the good stuff. I really need the support of the core people who appreciate what I do, to build this and help more dogs and grow the audience. I also have a Patreon I just started. I forgot about that. So it's patreon.com/the Dog Savant. Share and contribute if you can. I have different incentives for people, some training I can give, set up programs for your dogs and whatnot. So please contact me if you have questions about that too. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about potty training. Of course, this is ideal if you do this from the get-go and you have a young dog, a puppy. However, you can apply this, but there may be some challenges as you try to progress your dog's skills if they're an adult dog. Let's talk about the ideal situation, how to do it by the book, and then some troubleshooting to do if your dog is not taking to it the way the average dog would. There's still hope, but I want to kind of go through the general, most common way that you would approach potty training. So the most efficient way to teach a dog to go to the bathroom outside and hold it is to develop their skill in going more or less on command, going to completion if you give them enough time and reward them for doing such, and learning how to hold it increasingly longer as their age and abilities develop from an early age. So once they're older, they can go 6, maybe 8 hours if they're well trained. So they can make it through a work day without being, having this urgent need to go, and learning how to make themselves comfortable, short of a medical need or some kind of emergency, your dog's sick or whatever, of course. You're going to have to accommodate that. But we're talking about your dog is healthy, everything's good, and you're just developing this. And you start about an hour for every month old. So if you have a young puppy about 8 weeks, you want to go about 2, 3, 4 hours in between bathroom visits, maybe even a little more frequently. Overnight, you'll be amazed, and we'll talk about why. Dogs, usually from 8, 10, 12 weeks sometimes, I hear from clients that they will actually go before bedtime and wait until, at the even in the early morning until they need to go. So they learn how to figure out to hold it overnight, and I'll explain why in a second. But really it is, again, teaching them that when they go outside, that's the window of opportunity. Go on command. You give them about 10, 15 minutes. Make sure that they do what they need to. And then the work starts when we come back in. So what does that mean? We have to create a situation where a dog can hold it better than if they're allowed the freedom, or even worse, given something to promote that they should go inside, like a wee-wee pad or enough freedom in the house to sneak off and have an accident. What we want to do is try to figure out when the dog may not have taken care of their business completely, and maybe after an hour of being back inside, you'd want to keep them in the crate for another hour, then take them out again. And what that does, it's never punishment. You're doing this in a friendly, neutral way, using the crate at other times, so it's not like only when they're, not listening or they're alone. It's sort of like, well, we're hanging out in the living room, but you'll be in the crate because that'll keep you from sneaking off and having an accident. The crate, because a small space where a dog knows if they go to the bathroom, they're going to have to deal with it, promotes their instincts to hold it. And we're not trying to torture them. We're trying to just go a little bit longer than they're used to as their age and abilities develop. So if it's, let's say, an 8, 9-week-old dog, you take the puppy out, they go to the bathroom, they relieve themselves, but after an hour, they might have to go. Instead of giving them access to a wee-wee pad or letting them have the accident, or taking them out to accommodate it only an hour later, you actually make them hold it in the crate for another half hour, just a short period of time, but longer than they're accustomed to. then you take them out. And what you do is you keep building that, and they learn to go more to completion, to go longer inside with more freedom until they would need to go out again, which is ideally waiting that whole window, 2, 3, 4 hours, or as long as your dog's age and abilities dictate, or using the crate at some point where they would need to hold it a little extra before you take them out for another opportunity to go. Reason why I like this is two things. Number one, you're teaching a dog right from day one to go only outside. Dogs are creatures of habit, and they do learn from conditioning. And you need, even if you're just only taking them out frequently, it's still better than giving them things like wee-wee pads or the ability to go off because you're giving them too much freedom too soon, because they're just getting conditioned to going to the bathroom in the house. And that's never good. You want them to not even know what that's like. You know what I mean? Even like I said, if they have an accident, if they're sick, they don't feel good, take them out more frequently, but try to, at all costs, keep your house and your crate even more so the clean place. One day your house will seem like a giant crate to them, but for now we have to sometimes keep the space more restricted as needed to get them to hold it and wait till they're outside. So the crate, some dogs will resist the crate initially. We want to make it introduced, especially to a young dog, in a friendly way. I find some dogs that feel a little too independent when they're on their own, running around without any direction. They resist the crate more, and that's because they don't like not being where the action is. And we have to teach them how to slow it down a bit and go with the flow more, leash training, place training, just a little more direction, a little less reward for that overstimulated response to life. To carry over to why when they're in the crate, they don't have to have the fear of missing out or feel like it's keeping them out of the loop of life. And that's why I also recommend having the crate near you at times, not just when they're alone, not just in another end of the house. Definitely when, sleeping at night, they can sometimes sleep in the same room with you. But it is, again, a way that they're going to hold it when they need to or keep them safe and getting out of mischief, even just as a young puppy with their behavior, especially when they're alone. So people say, well, my dog's in the crate a lot because for a few weeks I've got to really teach them to hold it inside, and there's a lot of chances they're going to have an accident, so that must mean they have to be in the crate more. Sometimes, but what I say is to offset it, make sure they get a lot of exercise and outdoor time, especially after they go potty, so they're tuckered out, they don't mind laying around sleeping. In the crate is not a big deal. The other option you can try is having them on the leash sometimes or staying in their bed. That can work like a crate because they're limited in their space and it's less likely for them to go to the bathroom. So for that, try it, but it's not as foolproof as an actual fitted, secure kennel. But again, we're trying to make this so consistent and get that push now while the dog's young and most impressionable. So for the rest of their life, they have freedom, even if we're making some compensation by taking them on longer walks or giving them more exercise and having the crate, shuffled around the house so they can spend time with us. But again, when we're distracted, they won't sneak off and have the accident. Then you're taking a step back too forward in the whole potty training department. So you really want to teach your dog, again, right from the get-go, to go to the bathroom only outside, figure out about where their threshold is in terms of how long they can hold it. And then when you think that they've met their limit, but it's a little too soon based on how old they are and where they are in their potty training development, use the crate or some other confined situation like a leash, being on a bed. Even if you're holding a small puppy, they're not going to go to the bathroom unless there's some real leaky bladder issues. And it works. Just make sure if you put them down, you're aware that maybe they'd have to go. And if it's too soon to take them out, you're going to have to find some other option till it is the right time to do it. When you take them outside, you give them enough time, go extra 10, 15 minutes, but don't go for an hour. Make it clear to your dog, take them to a spot where they're supposed to go. Try to vary the surface texture. So do grass, cement, dirt, rocks, whatever. Just make sure it's outside. Don't just rely on one thing like the potty pad or the turf, because they're going to get conditioned to just going outside on turf, and you want it to be well-rounded so when you walk them or take them to other environments, they have that ability to carry it over into other surfaces. You reward them, make sure it's a good treat. Don't give them the reward too soon till the job's done, or they're going to just get cut off by the distraction of the treat. So watch that, but make it clear. And then again, they're not getting punished for not going to the bathroom. It's just teaching them with their instincts and consistency and creating a conditioned response to going outside and learning how to hold it longer and longer as they get the skills. And they'll figure it out once they learn there's no backup plan, that if they don't go outside, they're not going to be able to go until the next round. That's appropriate as far as how long they're going to wait. Now, what do we do? I think I covered everything with the puppy stuff. Now, what are we doing when a dog has an accident? People ask me that. People say, well, what happens when my dog's in an accident? Do I scold them? Do I rub their face in it? Do I pull out the old newspaper? No, no, and no, especially if you haven't worked on the first step of what I was just talking about. If you have not taught your dog clearly for at least a period of time where you see they're starting to get it, that they should only go outside, and giving them no option and using the consistency to teach them that, it's really not fair for them to learn how to, that it's wrong. And you really run the risk of giving them attention for the wrong behaviors. When you scold them for it, they just think they're getting attention for it, and you're going to freak them out and you're going to confuse them. You have to work on more of the teaching end of it and the prevention. And I'm not saying being passive. We are pushing it by expecting more from the dog and not just taking them out all day and giving them pads to pee on when they need to go. We're challenging them, but we're not punishing them. It's a lot different. And that's what some people misunderstand, is that by expecting growth in the dog, you're doing something that's corporal punishment. That's not it at all. It's really just about teaching. And when the dog has the accident, really you have to examine, what could I have done to have prevented it? Is there a pattern in this? You have to kind of play that game of chess with the dog as far as a strategy and what's going to preemptively stop something from happening, not react to it once it does, because usually there's a pattern if you start examining it and know what you're looking for. Now, that's like, again, what do you do? So now, again, your dog has an accident. What do I do? If you see there's a time when they're more likely to do it, if it's a certain period of hours that they've been back from their last walk at that time of day, and you think, well, after 2 hours, that's when they kind of do it. Well, in an hour and a half, put them in the crate or make them wait an hour, then take them out so they build up just that little extra threshold. And you're just looking for that, and with that, they're holding it till they're outside, and that puts 2 and 2 together for the dog. Adult dog. So you get a dog, a rescue, it's peeing and pooping all over the place. First, you want to rule out the cause of it. Some dogs are actually marking. A lot of dogs, and this isn't just on neuter dogs, a lot of dogs are just too agenda-minded. They have anxieties through life. They're tracking everything around them in the home, and they feel so overwhelmed, overstimulated. The marking is a way in their mind to perceive that they're getting control. So sometimes if you just take more control, create a structured life and relationship with the dog, more exercise, sometimes that stops. So you want to see if that's a root cause of it. Some dogs submissively pee or pee out of excitement. So even like in a crate, I've seen a lot of dogs or puppies, they're just getting so excited, overstimulated around life going on around them, and you're not addressing that. So even then, it's hard for them to be conscious of their bladder and hold it, even when they're trying their best and you're going through the right steps to do the potty training with them. So you have to make sure all these behavioral elements and relational elements are addressed. Otherwise, the dog might be imbalanced and they might not be able to focus on what you're teaching them as a pure potty training regimen. So you want to look into that. You want to, let me see. So those are like things that maybe not just directly potty training. Now, for some adult dogs too, they may not have been introduced to the crate early in life and they have to do it after the fact. And some dogs have a conniption over that. It is hard for them, especially dogs that are, like I'm saying, agenda-minded, who are zipping around the house too free and independently, to accept the control of the crate. You have to go slow with that. And I would always recommend creating more place training where they learn to hold a position even on a bed with a good down command, letting you walk away and come back and build that threshold of distance, time, duration, and separation so that you can introduce the crate. Then you can start feeding them in the crate if they'll take to it. You can have them hang out in the crate when they're with you, sleep in the crate, but it may be a little more of a process. And if you find the crate isn't working, some alternatives would be using a small room, but some separation anxiety dogs will destroy a small room. The crate is more secure, especially a well-made one. And again, sometimes a room is too big, like a bathroom or a small room, and they'll go to the bathroom in one corner of it and exist in the other. And that's even another point, is that some dogs will use their bed in the crate or towels or anything like that as a kind of cover up or absorbent. So if your dog is in the crate and they go to the bathroom in that and it doesn't seem like it's too big, you may have to remove the bedding too, just for a few days till they realize that there's nothing that's going to hide it. So that it gives them the ability to realize dogs are smarter than we realize. They've proven to me that people, boy, you speak like this, like you just know dogs. Oh, I've been around enough of them, and it's the owner's reports that are dictating this and seeing enough with my own eyes. They've taught me this. This is not my own opinion or personal feeling about it. This is just objective information based on a lot of seeing something over and over. And they are brilliant, and they have a certain awareness, but it's not our awareness, it's their awareness. And that has to be addressed, even in our communication, to get both our needs and their needs accommodated. And that disconnect is why there's because I'm busy, and why when you reconnect with them, you create balance in the relationship and their behaviors, and they're happier, we're happier, and there's no problems to speak of. But unfortunately, this type of talk is in some realms seen as politically incorrect, mean. There's people who say put a diaper on your dog before make him go in a kennel, because kennel is seen as jail. That's what people project onto this, and that's where a lot of what I speak about is not coming from my opinion or the way I'm wired. It's from the dogs teaching me, and I have to stand strong because it works, and the dogs only benefit. And just because people have a preconceived emotional notion towards what they're hearing or what the information is that they think, even though it's clearly not working, again, from thousands of unrelated people telling me the stories of what works and what doesn't, and the people who disagree with this tend to be promoting the stuff that isn't working so good, and it could be hurting dogs in a lot of cases. I'm going to give the information that helps. So that's that. That's the adult. If you have any questions with your dog, potty training cases, especially when they're in adult dogs, can be challenging. So I would love to hear your stories of what you've gone through. Any advice I can give, I can help. Oh, and the one other thing we do talk about with potty training, there's a lot of things we can talk about, but I can go on and on. But one of the things also is food and water regulation. You might want to make sure your dog is on a healthy diet with no fillers, especially if they have a poop issue. Make sure that they're not overeating or they're not getting too many treats or foods that are going to cause a lot of waste material. It's only going to help. You want everything working on your side. Also with water, dogs need water, but if they're drinking too much, it's like me. If I drink too much water, I have to pee, and the ability to hold it is not so great. And if I wasn't taught how to hold it, I probably have to have that more regulated, based on my weight, my exercise, the heat level, and whatnot. So always consult with a vet if there's any question with this, but I'm giving you the most efficient way and how to troubleshoot sometimes when it's not working out, or how to address an adult dog who hasn't learned proper habits. And it has worked for a lot of my clients, and I go by the feedback. I've learned a lot along the way. This isn't the same information I used to give, because 25 years at this, I've evolved and have learned, and I keep learning. Hope this helps you. Again, please subscribe to this podcast. Share your questions. I want to do some Q&A on this podcast at some point. We'll have some guests, so stay tuned for more future episodes. Watch the Untrainables coming September 1st on Facebook Watch. And thank you so much. Have a great day, and make sure your dog pees outside. Bye.